Kendra, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, most people will know you for being one of the most renowned adult actresses in the world. You have more than 7 million followers online. But prior to this, what was your life like before you entered the industry, and what motivated you to join that line of work?
So, my life before the industry was pretty wild. It was pretty fun. I mean, and it's still fun. I think I was just living, I don't even know what normal is, but what I thought to be normal, right? I have I graduated college. I was so excited to get my first nursing position at the hospital, happily married. Um, I think just kind of living the American dream, or at least that's what I thought it was. And it was a good life. Um, I don't know. I mean, really, I feel like, I mean, I was happy and I'm still happy. So I guess just like a typical young married couple, so mm, I don't know. It was just, pretty simple. So, and I was good with that. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it's hard. I mean, not to say it's hard to look back. Um, but yeah, so just like a typical life, go to work, hang out with family, hang out with friends, go to, sporting events, and never got like the seats that I got now, but or that I am able to get now. Just, just enjoying life, right? So yeah.
That's really interesting. And I guess that most people would say that sounds like quite a content, quite a happy life. You were happily married, as you said. You just finished a nursing degree. So how did that end up transitioning to, as I said, maybe you becoming one of the most um, renowned adult actresses in this generation?
Well, it wasn't something that I planned. However, I always had a little bit of a promiscuous kind of sexual side. So while I was nursing, I did webcam just for fun. I thought, ooh, this is kind of hot and sexy. And, my guy, or my hubby, he didn't care. So, it was just something I did. And then um, there were some things that happened within my family. Tr- it was pretty tragic, although um, everyone is fine now. It was my sister had some health issues, was in a bad marriage. My mom had some health issues, and my dad just kind of up and left. It's like, oh well, I had a family, and now I'm just going to do what I want to do, and you guys don't exist anymore. So he kind of went on to do what made him happy, and at that point I was like, okay, here, like I'm a fixer, and just being a nurse for the amount of time that I was, I felt compelled to really help my family. And for me, my family, I was going to do whatever I had to do at all costs. I didn't care. So the webcamming that I was doing for fun, I started to do more often and tried to, utilize that platform to make extra money. So as much as I worked and on webcam and as well as at the hospital, I was never able to kind of make, help my mom with what she needed help with, helping my sister. And then, as far as my family goes, trying to keep us above water. I was trying to help my sister with her bills, my bills, and it was just like, okay, it's not enough. So I was at a point where, do I go back to school? But time was of the essence. So I didn't really have a choice to go back. And I decided to pursue adult film. And it's weird because I had watched it, right? I had my DVDs and I enjoyed it, or we enjoyed it. And I never thought like that, like who says, yeah, that's what I want to grow up and do, right? I mean, I never thought that. So it was interesting to, I still think like, how the hell, like, did I have the courage to do it? And I think part of it was because I thought I could hide it. People aren't going to know. I mean, it's all on DVD. I did not understand how impactful, how vast the internet was. So I after webcam, I decided to do film, and I don't even know how they, gosh, my God, how they like hired me again, because I was like a deer in the headlights. But I think when the cameras came on, it was just kind of natural for me. And it's like kind of like a golfer, right? If somebody has never golfed before and they don't develop these bad habits, they're really easy to, right, to teach. So for me, like, I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't have really any bad habits. I just tried to do what was natural, and there was good and bad to that. I think the good part about it was that my acting or how I engaged on film was natural, and I think relatable to a lot of, fans and couples and what have you. And then the things I was doing wrong were pretty easy to fix, like just opening up to the camera, and you learn as you go. So it wasn't something that I just said, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. For me, it was a matter of taking care of my family, because we didn't have anyone else that was going to do it for us. So yeah, so here I am.
Just out of curiosity, did you like nursing as a career?
Yeah, I did. And I still miss it. I really do. I love older people. I know they can get cranky. I mean, I get cranky though. I mean, and
So,
we all do. I just think some of it, they've earned, and you got to suck it up sometimes. So I'm a fixer, and I like to make people feel good. I'm more like go with the flow, and I love just really connecting on a human level with my patients, and I miss that. I feel that part of me is there's like a little hole there, in my heart, as far as being able to give back. So I try to do it in different ways. Now it's, not in the hospital setting, but I try to do
it
things
could
within the
be.
community. Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. Right. I'm taking care of you guys in other ways.
I love it. I love it. So,
Right. So
so in terms of like the practicalities, like how did that actually happen? Did you reach out to someone? Did they reach out to you?
So really, I didn't know anybody in the industry. I mean, I knew names and just who people were, but I didn't really know how to connect. And here I am in Michigan, and everyone else is in, LA, Vegas, Florida, and I really don't know anyone. So, now that I knew the internet was so big, I learned about a little bit about social media, started a Twitter, and that was really my way to network. So I was just kind of got busy studying Twitter and studying the big companies. And then one gentleman reached out to me, and it was, well, he's very famous, Manuel Ferrara. And he said, yeah, you definitely should, do this, and, do boy girl and whatever. So he kind of sparked my interest in doing boy girl, because I was only going to do girl girl. But reality is, like, who's going to want like a Milf girl girl? Like, how many hot moms are just getting it on with hot moms? I mean, I'd like to think that, there are more of it happening, but yeah, they're like, okay, honey, you're not going to last doing that. So yeah, so I started the Twitter, and set up the first shoot. I still honestly can't remember if it was, I always say like these are my first two, because I feel like they took place in the same trip. And although I shot one of them before the other, one came out before the other. So it's like I can consider them both my first time on film. So one was with Kink, and the other one was with Brazzers. So they were both girls, but yeah, I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, this big airport. It was a long flight. The airport was just insane. LAX is a hot mess. It's just, oh God, it's like, now I land, I'm like dreading it. I'm like, oh my God, but, it was exciting, but I was scared. I stayed in the wrong part of town, stayed at this janky little hotel, Ramada Inn on Wilshire. And it's just like, okay, I hope hope this works out, because I don't know anyone out here. It was just kind of like hanging out. But it went well. And I don't know, it's still just so surreal to me still. Like, I just think back, and it's just, I can't believe it's been 10 years.
As you mentioned, but there you'd started acting. By this point, were you still happily married?
And I'm still to the same, my hubby, and Yeah, I've known my husband since I was 8 years old, so
Wow.
long time. Yeah, long time.
Oh,
You know, it's
amazing.
funny because, like, some days I'm just like, "Man, I wanna set you on fire," and it's like we joke around and we play pranks, and, there's times I know I have to annoy the shit out of him because I like things a certain way as far as, like, my house, and even he's like, "Well, why do we pay someone to come clean? You're doing it anyway." I said, "I have to, like, pick up certain things that, like, are around here, like, it's nah, I just can't leave that for her, so I'm cleaning before she comes sometimes." But, yeah, I mean, we all have our quirks, but I think that's every couple, no matter who you're with, married, living with, roommates, like, whatever. So, but yeah, he's my best bud.
So you've obviously clearly been able to make it work for yourself. But I would be interested to know if you are somebody of note within the adult industry, more than likely you are going to have a ton of male followers, a ton of male interest. You may even get recognized when you go into streets, when you go into nightclubs, when you go into supermarkets. Do you think that that makes it easier or harder to get into a long-term, happy, fulfilled relationship?
That is such a good question. And it is so difficult. I've watched girls over the years and they struggle with intimacy because
Mm,
either people want to get close to them because of who they are, or maybe they don't know necessarily who they are and the girls don't want to tell them what they do. And then when they do, they're completely turned off or they want to change what they're doing. And so I feel like the love or the connection is never authentic. And it's really hard to connect. A lot of girls just choose to stay single or just kind of date guys in the industry or vice versa because it is hard dating in this. I don't even know what it would be like. I don't know, as far as dating advice, like, I feel like I'm so outdated. Like, I wouldn't even know. I feel I'm so like, I know what I want. Like, I don't have time for bullshit, right? So, so yeah, it would be hard. And I know it's hard for, people in the industry who aren't already connected. So yeah, it's tough.
it's quite an interesting paradox, right? Because on the one hand, I guess one of the issues that most people struggle with is attracting people. But obviously, as you said, but if you're a famous adult actress, then clearly that's not an issue. So on the one hand, you've got a person that literally millions of people are desperate to meet up on, desperate to meet up with. They're writing on their Instagrams. They're up at night doing all kinds of sinful things to their videos, trying to buy their socks or whatever it is online. Um, but then on the other hand, I guess that comes with the challenge then of, you know, the adult actor or actress being like, who can I trust? Does this person like me for who I am, as opposed to what I do? Because as I know you talk very eloquently about, sex is only one component to a relationship, right? So I can imagine that that is a tricky situation to navigate.
Yeah, it's not an easy one. So I think if you're not already in a relationship that's stable or steady, it is difficult. So I'm grateful that I have him. The thing is, a lot of women in the industry, and even men, they come in married, and then you see so many relationships fall apart. And
Mm.
I think a lot of it has to do with the attention and maybe the sometimes the fame, those types of things. And I think that a lot of performers, both in adult and maybe, you could say this for any profession where you're in the limelight or the public eye, that people do not know how to identify outside of, their alter ego or their on screen, persona. And I think that is really important, knowing who you are and being comfortable just being remembering and staying true to who you are opposed to who the public sees you as, because I think a lot of people get lost in that. And I think that's when relationships start to crumble. And you can't forget like where you started, who was there for you, and you're no better. Like just because I just don't like that mentality, like you're owed something. No, we're all the same. That's my job. This person has a job, they're a nurse or they're a teacher, and you know, yeah, you're not better just because you're in the public eye and you have fans. Like, don't forget that. Like, do not that kind of, it's like one of my pet peeves. You don't walk around like you're better or that you can't stop and say hi to somebody or take a picture for a fan. Don't do that. Like that's tacky. I don't like that.
Right, right. And I definitely want to come back to that later. But I would just love to wrap up this section first. And I'm kind of curious about how your background compares to other people's within the industry. So as we've talked about, like you went into the industry, you were college educated, you were a nurse, you can make a very good living as a nurse in America. You were happily married, you seem to come from a reasonably sane family. I can imagine that in the industry, there is a diverse number of reasons that people would enter the industry. Some people may want the attention, some people may do it because they're acting out or they want grow followers, they want to gain a lot of money. I'm not an expert on this, so I'm not too sure, but I would just be interested to know, do you feel like kind of an outlier perhaps for your motivations and reasons to go into the industry compared to perhaps other people?
Not really. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love sex a lot, right? I think we all do. And if you don't like it, it's going to show on camera, right? Um, However, I do feel like I had an advantage being that I was older and a little bit more, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, like in my skin, I guess. I don't know. I think I was just naive to like really focus on too many of my flaws, And I think sometimes the longer you're in it, the more you're picking at yourself. And it's like, God, if they like the first 2 years, boy, have I changed. And I think it's for the better, then like stop. But yeah, so I did feel a little bit, I guess that I can't like more fortunate, I guess, and I know some girls are just doing it for the money or they're in a bad situation or they're doing it for the notoriety or just to be recognized and to be noticed. And I was trying to do the opposite. I was just trying to make money. I love sex. So it was kind of easy trying to help my family, but I didn't want anyone to ever find out. And I was naive to that. I was trying to hide it for as long as I could. I didn't care, you know. So yeah, it is different. It is different. Definitely a different mindset.
That's a really thoughtful and very interesting to know. So I guess kind of like going back to relationships, how did uh going into um porn, how did that actually impact your marriage? Did it put a strain on things? Did it make you guys stronger? How did that work out for you?
That's a good question. There were times where it was difficult and my husband's not, jealous. However, it was kind of funny. And it was more of a joke. God rest his soul, Bill Bailey. He was, oh my gosh, he was such a sweet performer. But he's like, man, I think Bill's banged you like this month more than I have. Damn, Bill. So so when we saw Bill, he's like, hey, bro, like it was kind of funny, so there's jokes. So he's like, but Bill was such a sweetheart, and God, he's truly was one of the best. So, and he is missed. So those who didn't get a chance to work with him really missed out because he was an awesome guy, cool guy. But yeah, there were definitely challenges, because it's hard sometimes. A part of me felt guilty, like, well, what if I enjoy this too much? Or, but I'm supposed to. And he's like, you're supposed to enjoy your work. And I'm like, I know, but I feel kind of bad. Like sometimes I would feel bad, because I never wanted him to feel anything less than the best, no matter who I was with. If they were like, Mr. Ideal and maybe like what women see as ideal, I just never wanted him to feel bad, or I didn't want him to ever feel hurt, or I never wanted to like bruise his ego, and I I feel like I try to do a good job. Don't get me wrong. There were times, we may have had disagreements or, things. Um, but for the most part, I mean, he was really supportive, so that was a good thing. But it can be challenging, I'm experimenting. I mean, doing things like maybe I wouldn't have thought about on camera. So it's like I always would run things by him, like, hey, what do you think about this? And it's not that he controlled me, because he knows he's not doing that. We're not, I think relationships aren't not about control. It's a compromise, right? So I would, run things by him just to kind of get his feel. And if I felt like maybe, he wasn't feeling it, then I wouldn't do, but for the most part, he's always had my back as far as like what he thought was good for my career, but never pushed,
Mm.
so I feel like it was just the right amount of support, but yeah, don't get me wrong. There are times like, oh yeah, a couple cocktails, got a little stupid. Yeah, guilty, and I'm like, man, I fucked up, just here or there. It happens, and so, I mean, that's life, but I mean, not like infidelity. There's nothing, like that. So it was good. So we're pretty solid.
I'd love to kind of, I guess, transition this conversation. So for the people listening to this now that maybe work in a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4, or they're doing shift work in healthcare or construction or whatever, they may be wondering, what does an adult actress's kind of performance work schedule look like? So I wonder, could you talk us through the hours, the work life balance, etc., what your schedule looks like?
Yeah, when I first got into the industry, I would hear like just people talk and they say, "Oh yeah, like porn girls, they don't get up until noon." Like, I'm like, what the hell, right? And I feel like some days, like, man, but I mean, because we're up late a lot, but I get it. But like a typical day is really, it just depends on the director, right? But most of the time you want to shoot during the day because natural light is the best. It's less work for the company, and really, like, who wants to be out at like 8 o'clock at night? So if you're on a feature, you could be on set for 10, 12, 16, 18 hours a day, which is really a long day. And then,
Sure. Wow.
like, yeah, like but just say like a typical, I'm thinking on average, and like if the director has a shit together, okay, we're out of there in 8. Anything over 8, like, I want X amount per hour because you should have this wrapped up by 8. I never really put it in a contract, but I know one girl did, and she's pretty smart for doing that. So yeah, so you get there, you get your call time, and what you're supposed to bring the night before, who you're working with, so you prove your talent and all that stuff. Um, and then the first thing is you get checked in with your IDs, and to verify that you're whatever, you're not like, some of the girls do. You heard like one of the companies was in trouble for like hiring like underage girls and not like being duped by these girls. But anyway, so you go through all the legal stuff, and then you get into hair, get into makeup, pick out wardrobe, go over your script, depending like if you have a script or not, or if it's gone. So you do your pretty girls. So that's kind of where you kind of get into your groove and you're feeling sexy because you're all done up and glammed up, and the music, and you're just like, love it. I love that, just because I was like, I don't get glammed up at home. Like, this is about it. Right. So yeah, so it was fun. You do your pretty girls, and then, like, it depends like on like who you're working with. Right. So some companies run like 2 cameras. Some are very like staged, where, I mean, I remember this one director, thank God he's out, because I got along with him really well, but he was brutal for the guys to work with. It would be like, okay, okay, I want like 3 minutes in this position. Don't move. Like you're just like a robot. Like, okay, your angle, and like, Jesus Christ, like this is like, it was like all about the cinematography and the angles, but it was beautiful when it was done. But it was brutal, not enjoyable. The director's breathing down this guy's neck, and he's trying to keep his edge, like, right. And then the director's kind of talking down to the guy. I'm like, what a douche, right? Like, who does that? Don't do that to your talent, because you know what? You could like screw up his edge and then make my day long, and then your day long. So just stop. Okay. Ego. So yeah, so it depends on the director. Most of the directors is just like really like cool, chill, it's, okay, so pretty girls, then you get into your like, your scenes and your, different parts. So it's one camera, two camera, depending, some are POV, so it just depends on how specific the director or particular that they are. I worked with one director one time and it was like, oh my God, I felt like I was going on this like glider for like hours. My ass was sunburned. I'm like, Jesus Christ, did you get the angle? Thinking to myself, but I'm smiling because I'm a good sport. Yeah. So it just depends. But so you then you go into sex. Like sex is really only like 30 minutes. People think like, oh my God, you must be fucking for hours. Can I say that? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Or you
absolutely.
must be having sex for hours. And I'm just like, yeah, no, they're really chopping it up and editing it. And, so yeah. And then there's, pictures at the end and you sign paperwork, collect your check, have a good day. That's it.
When you put it like that, the average person might watch a 10 or 20-minute video online, or 30 seconds in some cases, and they don't necessarily see the work that goes on behind the background. It's unfathomable really that could be an 8, 10, 12, 16-hour day. I find that crazy. But I'd also love to pick up on, I guess, a confidence aspect. So I do these podcasts, I watch them, sometimes we record them quite frequently. And I'll be honest with you, I'm generally quite insecure about watching them back. They can be quite, I guess, intimidating things, particularly, I guess, as your audience grows and people comment on them. It's kind of, I find it just easier for my own sanity to kind of just stay away. But, having said this, I mean, to my knowledge, nobody has seen me naked online. So I just wonder kind of what is that like? I mean, do porn stars, do they watch their own stuff back? And perhaps how does it feel knowing, I guess, that other people kind of watch your stuff too?
We probably should. I think some do. I
Mm,
don't even like to listen to my voice. I'm just like, oh
right.
gosh, I don't watch my stuff. I probably should. Oh, I should, because like maybe that angle isn't real. Like I know there's a lot of angles that probably are not. But you know what? I mean, I think people like some realness, right? Not all guys, but I think it's relatable to, couples or guys. I mean, I just feel like if you're looking that perfect during sex, like how can you really be enjoying yourself? Because your mind is just like, like I don't want to mess up my hair. Like I don't want to. Well, then you're really not in the moment. I just feel like you should just be raw and just have fun. But again, I kind of go back and forth with the balance of, real connected, like sex, and then there's what the directors producers want. And yeah, I kind of just did what I like to do. I wasn't the best performer, and I'm okay to say that. I'm not looking for like, oh, compliments. I'm not fishing. I'm just saying when it comes to performing, I know I wasn't like fantastic. However, I had enthusiasm. Okay, so enthusiasm and personality and just genuine enjoyment, I think that's what fans want. They don't want perfect, because most people, we're far from perfect. None of us are, right? We have flaws. We have zits, razor burn, a stretch mark. I mean, I'm a mom, like on the back of my legs. I don't give a shit. Like, whatever. It's not, nobody's kicking me out of bed. Maybe some guys are, but I don't care. I'm not hopping in bed to them for them, just so, so, so hell with it. So no, I don't watch my stuff. I probably would look better on film and be a better performer, but I don't have that kind of time. I'm a mom. So
I've spoken to many people that have told me that to become better in bed, that they have gone to pornography, to watch and to learn, essentially. Do you think that that's a good or a bad idea?
don't do it, guys. Do it, for, you know, do it for just like the viewing pleasure, or just maybe to kind of get in the mood or whatever. Just do it just to like rub one out and be happy for the day, whatever, stress relief, whatever it is that you do it for. Okay. I don't care why you do it. It's better than, going out and getting, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I feel like two consenting adults should be able to do what they want to do, but at least you're not bringing home whatever disease. Do what you want with your thing at home, like whatever, right? It's yours. You know it better than anybody else. As far as education, no, I feel like it is not where couples should go. I think that this whole, like, who gets that glammed up for the most part? I mean, sometimes, right? You go out, you're out with somebody, your boyfriend, husband, whatever. And you go out and you come back and you have wild sex after like a hot night, right? But most people, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's just, I don't want to say it's bad because it's healthy to get the release, but that's not where you go for education, because what it does, it makes girls think that they need to like deep throat. No, guys would be like, oh my God, this last girl, her teeth, because it looks good on film. Like that got, that sound, the guys like it because that's what they hear on film, right? The wide angle lenses make our butts look way bigger than they are in person. People will be like, you're a lot smaller in person. You're tiny. You're not as tall. I'm like, yeah, I'm only 5'4", but we look, so looks are deceiving. That is a fantasy world. And that is it. So don't get education there. Like there are way better places for education than that. Yeah. Like a sex therapist or these like sex forums, that's where you're going to get like the truth. That is fantasy. It's pure entertainment, period.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I know I don't want to like ruin it for people, but no, girls, you're not going to be doing like, stop your gag reflex, like whatever. It is what it is. Like, you do your best, but don't think you have to do all that stuff. So I
think that there are some really, really good and thoughtful points in there. And I think that it is also worth me saying for the long-term listeners of the show that on this podcast, we have spoken to neuroscientists, to doctors, to reasonably thoughtful people. And we have discussed perhaps the harmful effects that pornography can have on relationships, on the brain, and it's kind of seems to be the way that the scientific literature seems to point, is that pornography seems to kind of be like a one-way street, in the sense that, even if you start off watching very ethical porn, because your brain perhaps gets desensitized, then even if you have the best intentions, it seems to naturally gravitate over and over again. Your brain will need a stronger stimulus through, I guess, desensitization, right? And I think that this kind of links in nicely to perhaps what you mentioned with there, where, you may have, a young couple that both may be virgins or something like this, but you've got one of the partners that has, let's say, become very addicted to extreme porn. So I'm curious, and this might sound like quite an odd question, but how do you kind of weigh up the good and the bad elements of porn for society?
So I think it has a purpose. I think that it is not good nor bad. I feel like it is, again, it's a form of entertainment. Okay. It's used as a tool to maybe enhance, I think, couples sexually, or just people who maybe there are guys out there that don't get laid. Let's just put it out there, right? They just don't, right? Yeah. So for them, if it fills a need, right? If it fills a need, okay, it's a release. They don't have to go out anywhere. Maybe they're shy. Maybe they're just, they're introverted or overweight or health issue, whatever. But everybody needs to, masturbation is like great, even if you do have a boyfriend or husband or girlfriend, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's healthy. However, when you're going to it when it starts to become a habit, like every day, where you're choosing to masturbate over having sex with your partner. Okay, that's when it becomes kind of problematic. So I think everything in life is all about um
Moderation, balance. Yeah.
balance, I mean, it's true. I don't think it can be healthy and fun and kind of spice it up for couples, and for women, it's hot for them to watch too. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's when, again, you're doing it so much that you can't come anymore with a girl because you're jerking off too much. So stop that shit. Okay. You're ruining it. Just stop. Okay. Um, yeah. So it's not good nor bad. I think I guess I don't have the right answer. I think just it's like in balance, like in moderation, like if you want to do it, but don't rely on that, every time, it does desensitize you. Like, so yeah,
Yeah.
same with, okay, here we go. Let me just give you an analogy. So when women use like the Hitachi, right? They're using this Hitachi is so powerful on their clit, they're coming so fast. It desensitizes them, right? So they're not able to come maybe with oral or with their man because they're wearing the shit out of it. Same thing. Okay. Sex toys, moderation, moderation, So, but I think that just comes with, I mean, when you're a 16-year-old guy, that's all you think about. Like the wind blows and you're like ready to go. Right. So I think for a period of time, it gets a little crazy, but, and that's normal. But yeah, when you get in a relationship, slow that shit down.
I can say that in my own experience, the desensitized part is very real. I remember, two girls kissing would be enough for me at one stage. But you fast forward a number of years and you need a Steven Spielberg directed film to do the job.
I know. I know. Okay.
I love it.
But
A great line of yours is that what you do doesn't define who you are. Could you elaborate on this and what this means to you?
so I think in life in general, I mean, when somebody is, a doctor or a teacher, I mean, is that all that they are, right? Are they not a mother? Are they or father or brother? I mean, do they not have other interests? Does that completely, comprise their entire being? No, and it shouldn't. So yes, this is a job, but because it's not typical, right? It's um, it's still, I don't even know what a typical job is. I guess it's not well respected still in the United States, like over in Europe, and it's viewed differently. Sexuality is, and we have a long, long way to go, just with women in general, let alone that women and sexuality. So those are two separate topics that I could. You don't want to get me fired up on that. So yes, it is important for me to let people know that I am not just Kendra. Like, she is part of like my personal life, because both, me and, I hate to speak of like Kendra, the third person, I love sex, and that's normal. Like, most people should enjoy sex, right? If you have like a healthy sex life and, no trauma, whatever, it's healthy and it's okay to enjoy sex. You shouldn't feel guilty. We won't get into religion again. Another thing that pisses me off, how people judge people for masturbating. It's just bullshit. So anyway, so yeah, what I do is not who I am, and I am more than just Kendra. Like, she's not shit on who I really am, to be honest, because I am one good mother. I know that, and I think that's the part of my life that where I strive to be the best. That is where I put all of my heart, my time, the podcasts I listen to are, how to be a better parent. And, and my husband's like, "You're a great mom. Like, what are you?" And I'm like, "I know, but maybe, down the road, or I could do this or do that." So I'm critical of myself, just because I want to be, no one's perfect, but I want to be a good parent and a good wife and a good friend. And these are the things that really matter the most to me, not what I do. That's how I make a living, but it's not what I do. There aren't orgies at my house. There aren't random people at my house. It's just not what people think. And sorry if I'm ruining that fantasy, but it's just not. I mean, there's a time and a place. I get wild and carefree, but again, there's a time and a place, and it's not here.
I think that that is a very thoughtful point. And perhaps when you think about this era, that we find ourselves in this very interesting era that we live in. I guess our go-to is to kind of define ourselves by what we are. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a doctor, I'm an academic, I'm a nurse, an adult actress, I'm an athlete, etc., etc. I'm a lawyer. And I think that something that we do have to be mindful of is that if this becomes our sole identity, is that people fall for what we do as opposed to who we are. And as you said, they can be very, very different things. I also think that kind of we live in, it seems like a very Instagrammable era that it seems like people are just desperate to share their accomplishments and their trips to Peru on Instagram to people that barely notice them whilst they're here and won't notice them much whilst they're gone. So perhaps the answer, as you say, is to be flexible with your identity, to let you define that, and to not let society dictate something that, if one aspect of our identity goes away, that our entire image can be taken away from us.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, like being excited and sharing experiences. And some people, I don't think they do it for, people to say, oh, look at what she's doing. I think they're just excited, and maybe they have family in other countries, and so they want to share their experiences, and social media is a way for them to, or Facebook or whatever it is that they use, to say, look, how cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think if that is what you're posting all the time, and there's just, I mean, I guess whatever makes you happy. Like, I'm not going to judge. If that's what makes somebody happy, I'm fine with that, because it really doesn't affect my life. I don't really care if it's shoes or vacations or their home or their cars, like whatever. They probably have their reasons for it. And if they don't, like, that's fine. That's okay. I really don't care what other people are doing. I always, this is such a like nerdy term. My mom used to say, she used to be like, last time I checked, my last name wasn't Jones's, so I'm not trying to keep up with them, right? So, I mean, I think we live pretty well below our means. And I said to myself not too long ago, I was like, yeah, when is enough enough? Like, I just don't know. I mean, you can always want more of this or more of that. However, at like what point do you become content, right? And it's a good feeling, right? For me, it's more about just, my family being happy, and yeah, just in a good place mentally, and yeah. So yeah. But don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say like I don't like a nice pair of shoes, but like every pair of shoes I have doesn't have to be. I can find a really cute pair of $100 shoes, and I'm fine with that. I can make those last and look sexy. I made a $10 dress look hot. Didn't care. Well, I think it was like 15, but it doesn't matter. I'm like, this is cute. I don't care. I'm going to wear it for a scene and be done with it. Somebody was like, where'd you get it? I was like, at this cheap ass website called Shein. It's really cute. I was like, hell yeah, I don't care. Like, it was cute and hot, and yeah. And then, sometimes I'll get something, from Vegas. It's whatever. But I don't get dressed up a lot. So I'm either looking like, my little 80s and my workout stuff, or I'm dressed up. But, I'm just casual, cool and casual.
Just kind of going back, I guess, to your story and perhaps bridging it to some more general points for our audience. You were a nurse. You are one of the most notable adult actresses ever. You've got a happy marriage, millions of followers. You've now started a podcast. What would your advice be for people out there that want to follow, their dreams and live a life that is meaningful, happy, true to them? Because, as we know, these last 2 years, they have been tough. And I think that perhaps now more than ever, people would appreciate some good advice.
Okay, so I mean, I feel like I'm not able to give like the best advice just because this was never my dream. So I feel like I would be a little hypocritical in saying like, oh, follow your dream, you know. However, what I can say is if there's something that you're passionate about, it doesn't even have to be like a career. It can be like a hobby or something you want to learn or do. Don't give up because in my journey that really wasn't my dream, that just so happened to work out, which I'm extremely grateful for. I was told, I mean, I was, yeah, a lot of people told me I got a lot of no's. And even the agent I had was kind of a snake. She knows who she is, but I don't want to be negative Nancy. When I see her, we know that she knows I don't care for her. She will try to be kind, and I'll say, okay, let's just not go there. We can agree to disagree. We don't really care for each other. Let's move on. And I will move on because I'm a class act. However, don't give up because you're going to hear a lot of no's, and a no is just a word. It doesn't define who you are. People are going to tell you no. If it's something you're truly passionate about and you want to do, you need to keep moving forward, and you need to surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. If you hang around a bunch of assholes, you're going to be an asshole, right? If you hang around, I mean, that's kind of a cheesy one, but okay. So if you hang around a bunch of broke people, you're probably going to be broke, right? So,
Yes.
and it's not about that, but I mean, if you have a passion to own a company, I mean, learn from people who are successful, align yourself with people who are successful, and don't give up. Yeah. I mean, that's what I would say. Just forget the no's, just keep moving.
Here. I've got some quick fire questions from our audience that hopefully that we can go through and kind of get your thoughts are. Our first question is, what would be your best advice for having better sex?
Okay. The number one advice or the best information I can give is communicate with your partner. Do not be embarrassed to really say what feels good or what what you want to experiment with. And don't worry, I mean, about being judged, as long as you're with someone that you trust. And communication is everything, because without communicating, how is your partner going to know? If you're not communicating, and it doesn't necessarily have to be during sex, but a lot of times, I mean, you can communicate just with your body language or your oohs and your ahs. Don't fake it, because that is not going to help him. If he's giving you oral sex and you are just, oh yeah, just to make him feel good, no, don't do that, because he's going to keep doing it. He's doing something right. And you think, don't feel guilty about not coming. Guys are like, oh, aren't you coming yet? No, guys, like, pump your brakes. It takes about 15 minutes of oral. Okay. So give her some time. She has to be completely relaxed, okay, for her to be able to have that to happen. So, if there's mixed signals, then the sex is going to be bad. And if sex is bad, it's 80% of the relationship. If it's good, it's only 20%. So, communicate.
This is next one is going to be quite a dangerous question, but I'm sure many people are worried to hear the answer to. Does size matter?
Okay. Okay, this is so terrible. Okay. It does. Okay. However, there's a little clause, like a clause. If you, oh gosh, this is like, I don't want to offend people. Okay.
Do it. Let's have the truth.
I mean, but look, yeah, I have to be pretty honest. Like, okay, so the average male penis is like what, 5 inches? I don't know. I might be the data might have changed. Let's say 5 inches, right? I mean, it does depend on who you're with, though. If you've been like this woman has been around multiple kids and you're 5 and you're narrow, I don't know what's gonna. I mean, I don't know how much stimulation she's gonna feel. I think it all depends on the partner too, like physiologically, right? Everybody's body's a little different, but yeah, I mean, to a degree, yes, it does. Now, bigger is not always better, guys. So don't think, yeah, we like the idea of seeing a big, like, wow, look at that anaconda, right? Holy shit, right? It's like the wow factor. But in actuality, do you really want that anaconda banging your cervix like repeatedly? I mean, if he's not great in bed, does size really matter? You can have this big giant penis and he doesn't know what to do with it. Okay. And he's wearing you the fuck out. And then you can have, a solid 6 with girth and just knows how to work it and move it. So I guess, yes, it does to a degree. Yeah. So I think middle of the road, take a 7, I'll take an 8. That's fucking fantastic, right? Clean shaven. Make sure you clean your, okay. The friends too. Keep it nice and clean. Okay. Very important. Hygiene is huge if you ever, want to get a call back. So yeah. And plus it makes your stuff look better, bigger, right? Snake in the grass looks a lot bigger when that grass is trimmed. So Manscaped, gentlemen.
Take notes, guys, take notes. The next question is kind of, we broach this onto questions relevant to our audience. So you may be able to see a little bookshelf behind me there. We're a big audience of readers. Are there any books that have impacted your life?
Well, I mean, you mean in relation to like the adult industry, or
it can
just
be
in
any
general?
kind of book? It can be fiction, it can be non-fiction. We have a big audience of nerds like myself that read.
Really? So what do you, side note, what does your fan base typically read?
I guess like a lot of non-fiction books, health, science, personal development, spirituality, business, autobiography, etc., etc.
I cannot get into fiction. I don't know what it is. There has to be some truth and like science behind it for me to kind of relate. For me, I really enjoy reading, I guess, and there isn't just one that has impacted me or moved me, but just I love stories of perseverance, people who have overcome triumph, right? One of Mike Tyson's books, he tells his story. It's up there. It's one, he has a couple, I think a few that he has written, but others have been written about him. But just to hear people's stories, where they started and what they did to become successful is, to me, is extremely motivating. So I love listening to podcasts like that, reading books like that. I think more so now I'm more of the podcast. It's nice because I can multitask, right? Where I don't have to be just kind of stationary. That's good and bad. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading Mike Tyson's story of how he became who he was. It was just, yeah. So those types of stories, I guess, like I said, there isn't necessarily one. So, but I really enjoyed reading one of his books. So
I will check it out. The last question that we ask at the end of all of our podcasts is, what makes a life worth living?
For me, my family that is my life. And I don't care how much success, whatever people define success, because some people define it as financially stable. Other people maybe giving to the community. They're a successful philanthropist or entrepreneur, whatever that means. But for me, I would feel lost, empty, And I don't know that I could go on if I don't know. And I, to this day, I don't know how people do it when they lose, someone close to them, God forbid, a child, or just something, someone so close to them. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. So for me, it's about my family and creating experiences and memories. And I'm a little old school. I bought a little Polaroid camera and I have those little like the smaller ones, just because I'm afraid to get like the bigger one and it break, because they're a little bit more expensive. So we'll see how she does with this one. And I'm buying the photo book so we can create little, things like that. We have things on our phones, right? And I think that's great. All that's on the phone. But when I think of like my loved ones who have passed, I love looking through like my grandparents' photo album, and those are treasures. Like, to me, those are like my most treasured memories. So for me, it's about my family and creating memories, and just a beautiful life, for my family. So I know I'm kind of not exciting, but I can be. Just depends on the time and place, right? But yeah, I'm kind of like kind of a little nerd. I have all kinds of books. I almost want to take you upstairs to see.
Kendra, where can our audience connect with you, and where would you like to send them?
Well, okay, our cheesy little podcast, it's cheesy right now because it was just all about fun and no structure, is now in the process of being rebranded. So that's why we're on hold for right now. It is going to be Beauty and the Beast podcast, but we're going to be in Vegas and have residency, and we've restructured it. So right now it's in pre-production here. It's taking a while, but that's okay. So I'm excited. But Beauty and the Beast podcast on Instagram, Kendra Lust on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. And people, please, if I cannot stress this enough, I do not ask my fans for money. I do not ask for gift cards. I will not privately message you, for you to send me anything. I appreciate your support. If you want to direct message me, it would be on my OnlyFans. So onlyfans.com/Kendra Lust. So there is where I only communicate with fans. So please do not be duped or like fooled. Do not send these people money. I would never ask that from you directly. Please this or that, or no. So that's all I have to say about that, because it just drives me crazy when people get taken advantage of.
Kendra, this has been a true pleasure. We wanted to kind of, I guess, speak to people on the inside, as we wanted to stay open-minded about about the topic of pornography within society. And you're so educated and insightful and bright and really lovely to speak to on the topic. And I can say it's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure that our audience will really love how just warm and insightful you've been. So I really do thank you very much for taking the time and coming on the podcast.
Thank you. And hey, I think you should just leave your hair like that, because I think it looks fantastic. It's like messy hair, don't care. Looks cute.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
You're welcome.